Welcome to Wednesday night, October the 2nd, Henderson and Bailey's Homework Help. If we look down at problem number 2, we need to complete the table and find the rule. Well, the easiest way to do this is using our delta x and delta y. Remember, delta is your change. So this time we need to talk about our change in y. So our delta y over our delta x. So let's go ahead and find out what our change is in y. From 10 to 6, it went up. It increased 6, so that's positive 6. From 0 to 2, it went down 2. That's negative 2. It's a very ugly 2. So what we have in our problem is we're going to have our change in y. So delta y over delta x. Our change in x was negative 2 because it went down 2. It dropped. So basically what this line means is that line means to divide. So we have 6 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, but we have a positive divided by negative. If you have to, do your little triangle method for your integer rules for dividing and multiplying. We had a positive divided by a negative, so our answer is negative. So we have negative 3. The point of doing your delta y and delta x is that is now your coefficient. So I could go ahead and plug that in, going all the way down my table. Every single time, that means I'm going to be multiplying by negative 3. That's what we multiply by. We're taking our change and multiplying by our x. So we have negative 3 is our coefficient. Our coefficient is always multiplied by our term position. This is our x. Okay, so that means I'm going to do negative 3 times 0. But I have an answer of 10 because my y is 10. Well, negative 3 times 0, anything times 0 is 0. How am I going to get to 10 from 0? I'm going to add 10. So I actually have a constant in this problem. No matter what, I'm going to be adding 10 all the way down. That doesn't change. Let's try it out for the next problem to be sure. We have negative 3 as our coefficient. Negative 3 times negative 2. 3 times 2 is 6. But again, don't forget your little multiplying with integers. We have our positive and negative and negative. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So 3 times 2 is 6. Here, let me write it in a different color. 3 times 2 is 6. And 6 plus the 10 is equal to 16. Let me go back up to the beginning. Negative 3 times 0 is 0. And so 0 plus the 10 is 10. On the next one, we have negative 3 times 1. Anything times 1 is itself, so we have negative 3 plus our 10. Now don't forget, when you put negatives with positives, they cancel each other out, so we're left with 7 positives. So no matter what, the pattern's going to fit all the way down, so I can just finish filling out my table here. And I'm going to add my 10 as my constant. Negative 3 times, 5. Plus 10. Okay, so every single time, no matter what, we're multiplying by our coefficient is negative 3. Negative 3 times whatever we want x to be. Negative 3 times the x plus our constant is always there, plus our 10. Every time I do that, I'm going to get my y. My y depends on whatever you put in as your x. Okay? Okay, moving on. Let's look down, and I believe we're going to look at question number 4 now. Question number 4 asks us about the table in 2. So I've got it over here to the right-hand side. It says, using the table in the rule from the problem number 2 above, which would be the value of the 10th term? Well, our 10th term is your x. So that means instead of using an x, I'm going to plug in the number 10. So I have negative 3 times 10 negative 3 times 10, and then plus the 10 for our constant. Okay, follow order of operation, guys. We have our negative 3 times 10 is negative 30. Plus the 10. Remember, when adding integers, a negative and positive cancel each other out. So I really subtract. 30 minus 10 is 20. And we have more negatives than we have positive. So that tells us that y is equal to negative 20. I hope this helped you for tonight, and I'll see you again next week. Thank you.
Did it.